All right, good morning, seventh graders. Welcome to the last week of videos. Round of applause. You made it to the last round of videos. So, the last week, we are going to be focusing on a summation. What that means is everything that we've done for the last 4 weeks, which is going to include combining like terms, equations and expressions, and operations with rational numbers. So we are combining everything. So without further ado, we're just gonna go ahead and jump right in. I'm gonna make sure I pick the colors that are going to be bright enough for you to see. So as you can see on number 1, we are looking at 9p minus 8 plus 8. I'm only going to look at combining my terms that are alike. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use my colors instead of using just circles and squares. So I'm going to use green for anything on this problem that has a variable, and I'm going to use pink for everything else. And if you remember, if you are doing it this way, you need to include the sign that is in front of it, the operational sign that is in front of it. So when I circled my 8, I included the operational sign that is in front of it. When I did the plus 8, I did the plus sign in front of it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at what I can combine. So if you're looking, the only one that has a letter or a coefficient is my 9. So I'm just going to write 9p. All I'm going to do is just bring that down. And then right here, if I do negative 8 plus 8, let's see what that would be in my calculator. Even though I'm looking at it, I can pretty much tell. I'm just going to go ahead and put it in just for the sake of consistency. And I'm going to get 0. So a positive and a negative, 0 out. My answer is 9p. On this one, I'm not going to do my different colors. I'm just going to look at the ones that are the same and the ones that are not. So I'm showing you 2 different ways to do this. I'm showing you 2 different ways to do this. So if I have 5d minus d, I'm going to get 4d. And then I have a negative 7 plus 4. Remember, opposite signs means that I need to subtract. And because the absolute value of the 7 is a greater magnitude than the absolute value of 4, my answer is going to be negative. So I have 4d minus 3 as my answer. Do not combine terms that are not alike. Over here, you need to turn all of these into the same denominator. How do I do that? I need to change this one right here. So when I change this one, I need to make this one a 4 on the bottom. So I need to be able to have a 4. So how do I go from 4? I have to do times 2. And what I do to the top, I do to the bottom. So 2 times 1 is 2. And 2 times 4 is 4. And then I rewrite it. And I combine the terms that are alike. This one, and this one, they are all alike. So I have 2 plus 3, which is 5, plus 1, which is 6. The 4 is by itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simplify this. I'm not going to leave this as an improper fraction. I'm going to turn it into what? A mixed number. How many times can 4 go into 6? It can go 1 whole time. And I'm left with 2 over 4. And even that can be reduced to 1/2. Because 2 over 4 is reduced to 1/2. S, and then plus 4 is my final answer. Down here, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm just gonna take these and I'm going to bring them together. Oh, sorry, this has nothing and this has nothing. So I have 7.8 or 7 8/10 C minus 3 4/10. So let's see what that is. 7 8/10 minus 3 4/10. You're gonna get 4 4/10. So I have 4 4/10 C. I just bring down the 6P because there's nothing else that has that variable. Minus 10 because the 10 is a constant and doesn't have anything either. So this would be my final answer. I have y, 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 and y. So the good thing is I have the same variable for everything. Now I'm just looking at my coefficients. -9 plus 5 is 4y. Negative. Then I go from here to here. I do -4y minus 7y is going to give me -11y. Then I bring this with it. -11y plus 3y. You're going to get -8y as your answer. Right here, 8k and -11k is going to give me a -3k. And then a +4 plus a +9 is 13. And yes, I'm going through these quickly because these are ones we have already done. This is nothing new. We've done this in class for many weeks. And then I reviewed with you during 4th quarter. And now we're reviewing for one final time. So I'm going to move this up so we can look at the bottom. And we're going to look at distributing and expanding. So distributing and factoring. 2.5 or 2 5/10 times R, and then 2 5/10 times 1. 2 5/10 R, I'm going to have 2 5R. Remember, because 2 5/10 R, because when you have your letter and your number, all you're doing is combining them when you multiply. You're just putting them together like this. And then I have 2 5/10 times a -1. I'm going to end up with 2 times with a -2 5/10 because 1 times any number is that number. Let me show you in colors. So if I have -8 times a 3F, -8 times 3 is a -24. I keep my variable. And then if I had a -8, because remember, everything on the outside gets multiplied by what's on the inside. -8 times -9, you need to remember your rules of multiplication when you're multiplying negative numbers. A negative times a negative is a positive. Remember, same sign, positive answer. And then 8 times 9 is 72. That is your final answer. All right, so that's one regular, one with colors, color coding, and then we're going to go back to regular. So just because the 4 is behind does not mean that the process is different. You're still multiplying what's by your parenthesis times everything inside. 4 times the quantity of P plus T. Because we do not know what these variables, their values are, all we can do is take the number on the outside and make it its coefficient and add the variable. And same thing for T. And that would be our answer. You don't need to solve it, that's it. When you factor, that means we have to pull out. So what number do they have in common? They actually have a 2 in common. So rather than doing a whole list of things that factor, I'm just gonna write the 2. How do I get 2 times x? It's just 2 and then x. How do I get 2 and then the y? It's just y. Because if I just factored it out. If I distributed back in, I would get 2x plus 2y. That's how that works. Over here, what number do they have in common? Well, let's look. What numbers make 6 and 15? What are the factors of 6 and what are the factors of 15? Let's take a look. Factors of 6, we have 1, 2, 3, and 6. What about the factors of 15? We have, is this the right color? Yes. 1, we don't have 2, 3, we don't have 4, 5, we don't have 6. We don't have anything until we get to 15. So what is the number, the greatest number that they have in common? The greatest number they have in common is a 3. So what that means is this 3 that I circle is going to go on the outside of my parenthesis. Then I say -6 divided by 3 is a -2. I keep the variable. Then I have a -15 divided by 3 will give me a -5. And that is my answer. Regular, color-coded. You can do this way in your head or you can write it out. Either way, it does not matter because the point is for you to understand what you're doing and to arrive at the correct answer. Over here, I'm going to look at 10 and 25. Because I know that both of those numbers have a factor that is 5. Remember, the factors are the numbers that you use to multiply to get this number, to get your answer. So if my answer is 25, then I have to think backwards and say, what 2 numbers multiply together to get to 25? 5 and 5. I know that 5 is a factor of 10 because I think what 2 numbers can multiply together to get to 10? A 2 and a 5. Therefore, they both have 5 in common. 10 divided by 5 is 2, and I keep my variable. -25 divided by 5 is a -5. And that is my final answer. So this is it for video number 1. I'm going to upload this and make sure that you take pictures if you need to. Make sure you rewind if you need to. And I'll see you in the next video.